people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy.
The undisputed super featherweight champion of the world, Alicia, the Baumgardner.
That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Clarissa Shields' reaction to Nakisa Badarian's recent comments that if she wants to fight Alicia Baumgardner, it's gotta be at a weight that makes sense for Alicia. To which Clarissa responded, I laughed so hard seeing this. I'm a 5-weight division, 17-time world champion, 4-time undisputed. I don't have to go down nowhere. I've been making millions, and talking about 190, you forgot I was undisputed at 154. It's called conquering. Try it. Clarissa Shields hasn't actually made junior middleweight in about 4 years. That was 4 years ago when she was down there. Since then, she's moved up to middle, super middle, light heavy, and now heavy. But just because you made it before doesn't mean that you can make it now, not after having put on all that weight. Frankly, I'm not sure that she can get down there. Not safely, not match fit. So let's just not waste each other's time here. Clarissa Shields versus Alicia Baumgardner was never a realistic fight. There is too much weight in between there to where there is no sensible middle ground. Not for a fighter campaigning as a heavyweight and another fighter campaigning as a super feather. It is absolutely ridiculous. You only really hear this stuff in association with Clarissa. I understand that the women boxers tend to fluctuate in weight a lot more than the men do. They go up and down in weight all the time, but this is a bit much. So let's just get that right out of the way. In a very general sense, I don't know what the future holds for Clarissa Shields because she's campaigning at weights where there just isn't a lot going on and not a lot to choose from. The major promoters don't have any fighters at heavyweight or light heavyweight. At super middle, there is still Savannah Marshall, but we all know what the hang-up with Savannah is, and doing a rematch with her. Clarissa wants it in America, but her promoter's not offering up any money to do it in America. Boxer wants to do it, but Boxer wants it in the UK. A stalemate. The point is that because none of the major outfits have a priced stallion or stallions at those weights where Clarissa campaigns, that greatly inhibits her ability to make money and stay active. You can keep fighting the Vanessa Joanneses and Danielle Perkinses of the world, but who's actually paying you 7 figures to do that? She says she's been making millions. She's lying, because she's the same one that said Showtime was paying her $300,000 per fight, and then they cut her purses in half. During the shutdown, during COVID, you went from $300,000 per fight to $150,000 per fight, at which point you left the platform. The only time I think Clarissa Shields has sniffed a 7-figure purse was for the Savannah Marshall fight, and that was it. Because if you've been paying attention, the engagements have become noticeably smaller and smaller. Fight by fight, the engagements have become more and more intimate. For the last one, I saw all those rows of empty seats as Clarissa Shields made her ring walk, and you expect me to believe that somebody's paying her $1 million per fight? Really doesn't matter how many gold medals you won in the Olympics. You won 2. You know who else won 2 gold medals? Guillermo Rigondeaux. And he was never a big draw. Neither are you. You won a bunch of vacant titles in the pros, none of which is lending itself towards your drawing power, because I saw her last fight. I saw all those empty seats. I saw all the empty seats for the Perkins fight, the Joannes fight, the Cornejo fight. Who's she trying to kid? It's her pride talking, and she hates to admit that Alicia Baumgardner and a good chunk of those girls signed to most valuable promotions are set to make more money moving forward than she is, because you draw more flies with honey. Alicia, Ellie, Dina. Oh yes, I think a good chunk of most valuable promotions, a stable of Valkyries, are set to make more money in their next fight than Clarissa made in her last one. There's this online cult that seems to celebrate Clarissa and whatever she does, but it doesn't translate into money in the real world, because these people don't have any.
They have Twitter accounts.
Instagram. They watch YouTube videos, but they don't spend money. So it doesn't matter how much online support you're getting if it don't translate into dollars.
And for Clarissa, it's not.
And if she wasn't such a loudmouth and such a bonehead, she could have had the most valuable promotions engine behind her to push her towards those seven-figure paydays. Though I gather it would have been a lot more difficult to do with Clarissa because nobody likes her. And that's reality. That is, nobody that spends any kind of money.
You got is a bunch of loudmouth bums online cheering her on, but not from the stands.
So, I don't actually know what she's gonna do, and I don't care either. There is enough happening at more densely populated weights, deeper divisions than the ones that she campaigns in, that we could go the rest of our lives without talking about Clarissa's career.
People just pretend to be excited to watch her fight these soup ladies and soccer moms.
The last girl she fought had a record of 5-0 and had never fought in a 10-rounder at 42 years old, and that's who she fought for undisputed.
Goddamn joke. Clarissa is to boxing what Angel Reese is to the WNBA.
But at least Angel Reese is attractive.
Clarissa's been putting people off for years. So now we're at a point where you're at these weights, nobody watches, and nobody cares about.
The major promoters don't have anybody up there for you to fight, so you're not gonna make any money through them. You yourself don't have the drawing power of a seven-figure fighter, $1 million fighter. You ain't got it.
But if you want to pretend, go ahead. And if that small cult that supports you wants to pretend with you, they can too.
Because they are just as easy to ignore as you are.
Alicia doesn't need a Clarissa Shields fight.
That's the kicker. Your 2 gold medals and all those alphabet titles you picked up, and in the end, Alicia doesn't actually need you to make big money. She's already gonna make big money without you.
So whatever.
Elsewhere in the world of boxing, follow up to a story I talked about last week, how there are some out there who are pushing for Jaron Ennis to leave Matchroom to go over to the PBC.
One guy in particular.
Guy who goes by the name Pound for Pound, who claimed he heard a rumor that this was Jaron Ennis' final fight under his Matchroom deal, and that afterwards he would be leaving to the PBC. It didn't help his credibility that after his fight this past weekend, Jaron Ennis himself said he's going to be doing more business with Matchroom.
After the Stanionis fight, that's what he said. And why wouldn't he?
For whatever reason, this Pound for Pound character wants him to leave Matchroom that's gotten him 3 fights in 9 months, one of which was a unification match, to go to PBC.
Stories change.
Because he went from guaranteeing that Boots was going to leave Matchroom to begging the PBC to pick him up. Begging them to bill a fight between him and Mario Barrios as a pay-per-view.
Bill it as a pay-per-view. Is he retarded?
Yes, likely the byproduct of fetal alcohol syndrome when you got to see a unification match this past weekend at no additional charge. And what you want now is for the PBC to charge people $80 to watch him fight a lesser fighter, a lesser champion in Mario Barrios, who's already been knocked out before. We should pay $80 to see that. Why?
Because he's a moron.
Not just a moron. He's another one of these guys that views Al Heyman as a civil rights leader and the PBC as a civil rights group.
What?
Well, for years now, that's been the undertone and the explanation for the love affair that some of these guys have with Al Heyman and his PBC. This guy's not happy with what Matchroom is doing with Boots, and he would prefer that he go over there with Al Heyman, even if it means putting Boots' fights behind a paywall.
Which is of no consequence to him, because he doesn't pay for shit anyway, but if he's gonna steal a fight, I guess he would prefer to steal from the PBC.
What?
It can get confusing because you're talking about individuals that regularly use pirate streams to take in all the boxing content in that way. Are you actually supporting them when you don't buy any of their fights?
Supporters like these, who needs enemies? And it is better to not engage in discussions with low IQ individuals like these. Better to laugh at them from afar. They are the comedic relief for the rest of us in between fights.
Now as it pertains to Boots.
Eddie Hearn expects Brian Norman Jr. to step up to Jaron Ennis. Atlantic City. Matchroom won a match Jaron Ennis with Brian Norman after Ennis came of age in victory over Amanta Stanionis. The 27-year-old added the WBA title to his collection by stopping the previously undefeated Stanionis at the conclusion of 6 one-sided rounds. If Stanionis represented the toughest opponent of his career at Boardwalk Hall, the exciting Ennis delivered his finest performance.
Part of that is activity. A fighter that's fighting on a regular basis is thereby made sharper for it.
The more you do something, the better you get at it. And when you're fighting on a regular schedule, on a regular basis, you're going to show up sharper, fight by fight. Ennis has long been regarded as capable of proving among the greatest fighters of the coming era, and Saturday's victory was perhaps the first time he truly demonstrated that. He performed like he had entered his physical prime, and his promoter therefore wants to deliver him a further unification fight, and ultimately the undisputed crown, before his expected move up in weight. Norman Jr., the WBO champion, is promoted by Top Rank, and after previously failing to match them, Eddie Hearn revealed that those plans will be revived. If you don't want to get in the ring, you may as well retire, because what's it all about? The kind of payday to fight the best in the sport and prove yourself as a pound-for-pound great. Philadelphia's Wells Fargo back end of the summer or September. Let's make it happen. Jaron already showed us what he's all about. Legacy and beating champions. The greatest achievement for any fighter is to become undisputed. I don't know the ins and outs of how Boots felt at the weight, but at the weigh-in, he looked extremely comfortable.
Still on borrowed time.
I would not give Jaron Ennis more than 2 to 3 fights as a welterweight, and they need to happen quickly.
Some don't seem to understand is that if Jaron Ennis announced tomorrow that he would be moving up to junior middleweight, the boxing community at large would not castigate him for it.
A good number of them have been asking him to move up to junior middle because they feel there are better fights with better fighters up there waiting, whereas the guys at welter...
You see what he did to Stanionis.
And this pertains to Brian Norman and his team, who for whatever reason think they have time. You've got a limited window of opportunity to make this fight with Boots and make a career-high purse, because once he leaves, nobody's gonna be offering you nothing.
Part of the chat after the Karen Chukadzian fight in November was, is it time to move up? I would have felt like we hadn't done our job if he moved up without unifying the division. I hope that the other champions have ambition. The other guys have to show some ambition. It's just money, 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 money. What about trying to be the number 1 in the division? With all due respect to Brian Norman, he's just boxed for about $150,000 on the undercard of Mayer versus Ryan. If we go back to Wells Fargo now to unify again, he will fill the whole place out. 18,000, 19,000. So there's money in the pot, but you've got to show ambition as well.
That's what Eddie Hearn had to say about it.
Brian Norman's a great fighter. Don't we want to make great fights for the sport? Watch what Ennis does over the next few years. He's going through all the divisions.
We've also got Shakram Gayasov. That's an ordered fight to the winner. We have to deal with that situation. We've got Brian Norman. We've got the WBC champion Mario Barrios. We'll talk, but I want to see him fight the other champions, and I think that's what the audience wants too. That if Boots is really going to do this undisputed thing, wrap it up and do it in a jiffy, because the real fights they want to see him in are at 154.
The intriguing ones. Boxing is at its best when the answer isn't quite clear, when you don't know for sure if a guy's gonna make it through. I think about fights like Boots versus Bohachuk, or Boots versus Bakram Murtazaliev, Boots versus Ortiz.
Those junior middleweights can offer Jaron Ennis a challenge that is more in keeping with his level of talent. There, he will truly be tested.
I support him on his undisputed run. I support unification matches whenever they can happen, but I also understand that he would be the overwhelming favorite over any belt holder in the welterweight division.
Right now, I'm going to enjoy my win, sit back, talk to the team, and as said, when I fight top-of-the-line guys, good guys, that's what you're going to see. you're gonna see a whole different me. When I'm in the ring, I'm in my happy place. When I got a top guy and I'm fighting for something, it's a whole different story. Can't nobody mess with me. I was just picking it up when the fight was stopped. I knew he was going to go. From the second round, from certain things he was doing, I'd been really wanting to pick it up. But my dad and trainer Derek Bozianis was like, not yet. Take your time, chill, have fun, stick to the game plan, and let it come. Everything is falling in line. It's perfect timing. Y'all don't know I took a pay cut for this fight too. I accepted less money for this fight. This fight happened because of me. I took less money. I gave Stanionis more money to fight me. That shows who really wanted the fight. I'd beat anybody in the world. I'm the best fighter in the world. I keep saying these fighters can't mess with me.
Now, Eddie said he spoke to Bob and the people at Top Rank, and they want to do it. They want to make the Norman versus Ennis fight. I believe him because Top Rank don't have much use for Brian Norman by himself. He's not yet in a place where he can headline a show and make money for them. The most that he can be is a placeholder, an undercard fighter.
Consider that he beat Giovanni Santillan and won the belt months ago, and the most they had in store for him was an undercard slot. Fast forward to what the conversation is now, a Jin Sasaki fight in Japan.
Brian Norman fights in a fight in Japan. It's not a Top Rank show. It's not happening on their dime.
They would be outsourcing him because the only way to make money off of Brian is if somebody else uses him and you get a percentage of his purse.
That's it.
So when Eddie Hearn says that Top Rank is on board to do the fight, that's why. It's the only way to turn over a profit off of Brian Norman. Now, obviously, the Normans are sandbagging it.
They have been for close to a year now.
What they better do is wake up and smell the coffee. You let the gravy train go by, there may not be another one for a long time. You're not on anybody's radar.
Just boots. And that's only because you got a belt. That's only because you've got something that he wants. But he has alternatives, and you don't.
Brian Norman is young enough that if he were to fight Jaron Ennis and lost, it's hardly the end of the world. He can regroup. He can rebuild.
And if he gives it a go, if he gives a good effort and puts up a good fight, it's not really a loss.
But a lot of today's fighters, particularly the American ones, have a defeatist mentality. They look at this as selling their title because they don't think they can defend it. They don't think they can win.
There's no ambition.
And that's how they approach the negotiations, which is why they are so difficult to deal with.
Ideally, we'd be getting Boots versus Norman over the summer months. It's the ideal placement for such a fight. A summer blockbuster, and they're practically on the same schedule.
I do happen to think Jaron Ennis has all the ingredients to stop Brian Norman. Stylistically, he's got the edge.
But I still want to see it. You still have to fight the fights.
Now, $1.7 million last year was not enough to get the fight done. And time is of the essence, at least for Jaron Ennis. He won't be able to keep making welterweight forever.
So you're thinking that Eddie's gonna have to overpay these guys?
Being honest, he was already going to overpay them. $1.7 million is well in excess of what Brian Norman has ever made for a fight. So he was already going to overpay him. If you want to do this, and you want to do it in a timely fashion,
May cost a little something extra.
making that concession will be the difference between making this fight and not making this fight.
What about Mario?
Well, they could see about fighting Mario and see if his asking price is more reasonable than the Norman's. They could always try that.
One thing is clear. Time is of the essence, and they have to move fast.